everybody, it's Clarissa. You are in the limelight with yet another exceptional guest. Not only is she a friend of mine, but she's a friend to many. She's known as the Lady of Grace. I sort of took a look at a lot of the different testimonials that are coming in on her behalf, and they are all so lovely and so kind because she is so lovely and so kind and so gracious all the time. She is a mentor to many and a jack of many trades, may I say. This is a lady that I'm very fortunate to call a friend of mine. And although I never see her, we don't get together that much, you know. But it's lovely to see her here on this podcast and this interview today. Hello, Sharon Lechter, and welcome to In the Limelight.
Hello, my dear Clarissa. I think the last 3 times we've seen each other is when we were in other cities. We both live here in Arizona and seldom see each other here. So
I know. I think at one time we were on the other side of the world when we saw each other. We had a whole week together, which was, I think, a really great indication that we are good friends, because we could be a whole week together and still love each other more after the trip was over than before it started. So that's a great indicator of true friendship for sure. I just was looking on your Facebook this past weekend, and it looks like there's way too much fun going on that at that ranch for it to be work. That's all I have to say about that. Your play big move.
Yes, we had an incredible weekend. Mike and I own a ranch called Cherry Creek Lodge. You and I were just talking about an event you're going to about sustainability. It is a completely off the grid, all solar power, our own well water. We have a lake for fishing, horseback riding, shooting, everything. And it's a fantastic place to take your family. It's a guest ranch. It's called cherrycreeklodge.com. But Mike and I hold retreats there. And so this last weekend, we had a group of people, entrepreneurs and business owners up there. And we just had an incredible time. We have another one right before Thanksgiving. So we do them periodically, but we bring everybody together, and there's masterminding, there's one-on-one deep dive. I have this weekend, I had Elaine Rawls with me, who is one of the top marketing and advertising agencies founder. And so she brought in all the current trends and what Google's doing, and then how to establish your personal brand. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about goals. Certainly, as we look at preparing for 2020, the whole theme of the retreat was to energize, get out in the clean air and get some of God's beauty, strategize, and mobilize. So
I saw a little bit of, I don't know, it was wine and champagne. There were lots of horses, and no, it looked like it was a great time. But obviously, there was some great masterminding going on, and there's a beautiful, great room with a fireplace, and it just looked like the most wonderful, lovely, cozy place to be taking that deeper dive into your business. You started out as an accountant many years ago, and obviously that has grown into something much bigger, much better, much greater. And you teach financial literacy to many people, and I was wondering, how many people is it that you still are you really still surprised at how many people are financially illiterate?
Oh, I'm devastated. In fact, there was just a study released earlier this year. I just found it doing some research for another group. And it says 60%, 59% of employees in corporations are financially stressed. And so we see our economy doing so well and people's increased in wages, but there's still a high level of paycheck to paycheck. And depending on which survey you read, It can be anywhere from 50 to 70% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
But it's a global issue. And the lack of teaching our children about finances it's my mission. And unfortunately, I'm as passionate about it as today as I was 30 years ago, because we still have a long way to go.
I know that you do a lot of lobbying around financial literacy. Not only were you a part of the financial literacy committee at the Obama White House, if I'm not mistaken, but I know that you've been doing a lot of lobbying here in the state of Arizona with Governor Doug Ducey. When is it that we might be able to see a little bit more taking place in the way of education around financial literacy in the schools?
Well, when I was on the Financial Literacy Commission for Presidents Bush and Obama, we did have the Credit Card Act passed that prevents credit card companies from soliciting students on campus for credit cards. And that's just a small issue that needed, but it stops a lot of the predatory actions that were happening to these young college freshmen coming to campus for the first time.
Mhm.
But in Arizona, we successfully passed a law 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, that requires personal finance be taught for high school graduation. Now, there are only five states in the nation that require a separate class. 12 others require it be taught, but it can be assimilated into other courses. Now in Arizona, we got that successfully passed, but we are now back at the plate because we want it to be a separate class. And I had the honor a couple of months ago being appointed by our treasurer, Kimberly Yee, to head the Arizona Financial Literacy Task Force as it relates to personal finance education and K through 12 education.
Everybody, I told you that here in the Limelight, we bring on the big, the best, and the better, and Sharon Lechter is certainly one of those. Do not go away because there's so much more to come. Hey everybody, Clarissa here. I wanted to talk to you about audible.com and why. Well, you can get countless amounts of books on audio. Just listen to them. Who has the time? I don't, to stop and read all the books that I want to read. But I'm always in the car. I'm always traveling either from Phoenix to Las Vegas or out to San Diego, LA. I've got plenty of time in the car that I can be listening and learning, or listening and enjoying at the same time. So I've decided to affiliate with Audible. It's what I love to do, is listen and learn. So why don't you do the same? And they've got it in different languages. So it's not just English. I know there's Spanish and other languages as well, that you can go in and pick all kinds of different titles, all kinds of different books, and listen to them. And for me, I, again, love learning. It's the quickest way for me. It's the easiest way for me. It's the most affordable way for me. So go ahead. You can get a free trial. I'm going to send you to clarissaburt.com/audible. Go there now. You will not be sorry. Welcome back in the Limelight, everybody. And today, an extraordinary guest, Sharon Lechter. To know her is to love her. And certainly, Sharon, one thing I have to say, since I met you probably 10 years ago, is you certainly do get around, because you're at every time I turn around, you're out of town, you're at another networking event, you're illuminating a lot of people, you're teaching people everything that you know, and you're mentoring. I think I wanted to know from you, as far as from a business perspective, what was your crowning moment? All the different things you've done, all the books that you've read. I know you've got one you're going to show us in a minute, you're the latest and the greatest, but what would you say up until now has been your crowning moment?
Well, Clarissa, I get asked that question a lot. In fact, I was on an interview a little while ago and I had that same question. So my tongue-in-cheek answer is always the next one. I was raised by a father who said, "Have you added value to someone's life today?" And so that type A personality, there's just keep driving, keep going, and keep getting there. But from a practical perspective, probably from a business perspective, was when we hit the New York Times list. The same, after 3 years of being out in publishing, Rich Dad Poor Dad, after 3 years, we actually hit the New York Times, USA Today, and back then Business Week magazine lists. And so that was a huge achievement, because it validated the fact that we were making an impact.
Right.
And we did it on our own. That was before we had a mainstream publisher step up to support us.
Right.
So there was a feeling of validation of the fact that we did it the real way. We didn't scan. Amazon didn't exist at the time.
Exactly.
So we couldn't have a bunch of people buy it in 1 hour and
Sure.
say we were number one.
Right.
We literally made it on our own.
No shortcuts.
Yeah, and we stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for 7 years. So that's a pretty big achievement as compared to authors or other things. So I'm very proud of that. But I'm most proud by those individual comments that come in, people that tell me that they read something that inspired them to change their life. That's when I feel like I have more to do, and it feeds my soul when I get that kind of feedback.
Well, I knew that you had enormous success with Think and Grow Rich for Women, enormous success with Outwitting the Devil. And then you've got a new book out that I'd love for you to show everybody, called Success in Something Greater. Talk to us a little bit about this last opera and what the message is.
Well, my friend Greg Reed and I did 3 Feet from Gold 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we got back together and said, well, as our anniversary of working together, we should do something new. And so we agreed to do another book, and that's Success in Something Greater. It's been, and this one had some bumps along the way, but it took us a couple of years. We finally got it done. And what was wonderful, it was going to be called The Magic Key because it's also with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. But Don Green reached out to me and said, Sharon, I think you should use the title that Napoleon Hill was going to use for his last book that never got published.
Right.
And so that's what's so special about this title. Success in Something Greater was really kind of his dying wish. He wanted to do this book. And so we had the honor of being able to pull this together. And we highlight close to 20 people on not just their success stories, but what success means to them and how they took that success and gave back and in a life of significance. So it's really a great book of wonderful information for people looking what they should do.
So then let me ask you the question. What does success mean for you?
Success is how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. It has nothing to do with dollars and cents. You're financially free when income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses. It doesn't need to be millions of dollars. Right. The issue is, how do you feel about yourself? I have a lot of very rich friends who are not happy, right? So they might be a success financially, but they're not a success in life.
Right.
A lot of friends who are still struggling financially, but they're very happy in their life. So success is how you feel about yourself at the end of the day.
You've always said that what I'm going to let you say it because I think it's just it's so cute when I hear you say this. The sexiest word on the planet is
assets. My favorite word. My favorite word. Assets.
And the second one is royalties.
We had t-shirts made sexy. Assets are sexy with the X being a dollar sign. The S in the assets. But It really is, because no matter where you live, no matter what language you speak, if you are wealthy, it's because you have assets. Too many people live their life just exchanging their personal time for money. And it's really hard to get ahead. Right. So instead of spending your time and exchanging it for money, I want you to invest your time in creating, buying, or building an asset. And that asset can then be an employee for you, generating income while you sleep and while you travel to Italy for 2 weeks.
There you go.
Yes, assets is the name of the game.
The second one you say is royalties, and the third one is leverage. Talk about royalties a second.
Yes, royalties is when someone else is paying you for using your technology or in our case, it was books. We used to pay a lot of royalties when I had the talking book business for kids, because I paid Disney and Warner Brothers to be aligned. I kept saying, I'm writing pretty big checks. Next time I build a business, I want those checks coming to me. Yeah. So royalties means somebody else is venturing with you and saying, we want to pay you to be aligned with you. We want to pay to use your brand. And that's the best kind of leverage, because you're taking what you've created and you're getting revenue sources from lots of different channels. And who doesn't want additional revenue channels, right?
I don't know anyone that wouldn't. How about leverage?
That's what leverage is all about, is taking that and having what you do by other people. Now, the other side of leverage is good debt. And if you're into real estate, leverage is the fact that instead of spending $100,000 for a house, you spend 20, the bank gives you 80, and you have a $100,000 asset that your tenant is paying that debt. So you're able to take that cash flow and keep it. And when the debt gets paid down, you own 100% of the asset, you own 100% of the revenue. The bank has been paid off. So that leverage is them loaning you money against that asset.
I love that last book, by the way. I love the idea there and everything that you were talking about there. I did want to talk about the Play Big movement. I want to know why, because I was very, very surprised when I was watching your video on your website today to hear you say, I want to play big again. What did the again mean?
Well, when I started the talking book business, I just shared with you, we went to Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street. When I was building Rich Dad, we worked with Warner Books and Time Life, and always looking for that bigger player that can exponentially increase your revenue. And that's all I know. That's what I do. It's what I do with my clients. Find what's that next association? How can you leverage what you have and grow exponentially? But in December of 2012, I lost my youngest son. And I'm sure people watching and listening have had something stop them in the tracks. Well, you're not supposed to outlive your child. It was as if I put my life in neutral. I was numb. And I stopped playing big. I was still working, I was still writing, I was still doing things, but I wasn't reaching out. I was just kind of hiding, doing what I needed to do to keep going. And I think a lot of people feel that numbness at some point in their life. And it's just like, okay, the world starts beating you up and you have to make a decision. You know, a couple of years I decided ago, I thought maybe I should retire. And I said, I got a lot of pushback from family and friends. And so I made that decision instead of to retire, to refire. And mean by refiring is get back into the game of life and the game of business and start playing big again for me. Now, the movement is called the Play Big movement because not everybody needs to do it again. A lot of people need to start playing big. But the reason I created the movement, which is a free Facebook group, so just a private one and just asked to join, is I'm sharing the things that I'm doing so that other people can learn from that and do it in their life. And the people, we don't advertise it, we just literally have grown organically. And the people in there are all committed to their own success, committed to giving back. Because the Play Big movement means being number one in your field, living your legacy, which means every heart you touch, and creating maximum impact. And so when I made the decision to do that, I wanted to do it out in the open. I created this movement. But once I made that commitment, I opened myself up to the possibility. All kinds of things have come to me. It's amazing. And I want that to happen for everybody in that group, everybody watching, listening. Put yourself in the place of greatest potential.
So if somebody comes and signs up for the group, what can they expect? What will they see? What will they hear? What can they expect?
Well, there's a lot of interaction between the people in the group. I do a weekly broadcast on my regular professional page, but I do a private session on Thursday mornings just for the Play Big group. I have a podcast called the Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter podcast. Everybody can sign up for that as well. And all of my guests, I do a secondary shorter recording that's just for the group and the Play Big Movement. We go down a little deeper onto what success means to them, what habits they have. And so it's really an opportunity for people to learn from a lot of experts, to continue that what you feed your mind is so important. And I want to provide the tools for people to feed their mind with the possibilities.
As a teacher, a mentor, a coach, and you're within the Play Big movement, or maybe even not, what was the one story, the one person that stands out in your mind as the one that you really hugely changed the trajectory of their life? Not a name, just the story.
Wow. Well, I just talked to a young man last week who I had not known before last week, and he read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then he read Outwitting the Devil. And in the last year, he has created a multi-million-dollar networking organization with 39 cities across the country. And he gave me basically the credit for having him thinking outside the box to create that something. And that's one of many people that have found that inspiration and taken action. Because it's not, but it's not because of me, it's because of something I wrote that inspired them and they took action. Right. So I challenge everybody to take action. And that's, at the end of the day, I have someone else who now has, was a coach, very dynamic. Well, now she has events in 10 countries and is coaching and is a multi-million-dollar business. Her accountant said, whatever you're doing, keep doing, because your income increased 500% in 1 year. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're one of the busiest ladies that I know, because as I said, every time I turn around, I'm looking on social and you're in some other city, maybe even in another country. I know you were just traveling abroad recently, enlightening and illuminating many, many people. The next 5 years, you've always got 1,000, stokes in the fire. What are the next 5 years going to look like? Where do you see yourself in 5?
Well, I am going to write a book about refiring. I'm actually going to be starting working on that. I have a book out next year on Exit Rich, because I want to help business owners understand how to build the foundation of their business to the point where they can sell it. But from a personal perspective, in the next 5 years, I am in the process now of of doing more online, which is not something, organically I did it, but I never focused on internet marketing or sharing my story or educating people. So we've now finished 3 very incredibly deep, intensive college level courses that are online. One's called Your Money Mastery. One is called the Play Big Movement, and the other one is the Essential Components of a Successful Business, where we really drive deep into building that asset that can work for you. And so we're literally in the process right now of the testing phase of being able to do webinars and evergreen webinars and really attract people that are looking for that information.
Ugh, I'm exhausted just listening to you. It's incredible, just as you are. Absolutely. Tell everybody where we can find you before we say goodbye.
Well, I am Sharon Lechter everywhere, SharonLechter. You can visit my website, SharonLechter.com. I show, I have an events page there so you can see where I am all over the world. And I have the podcast there. You also can find me LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all Sharon Lechter. So,
And
and please
SharonLechter.com.
join the Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter Facebook group as well.
You know I love you, lady.
I love you too.
Talk to you
Safe
again real soon.
travels.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Talk soon.